One of Excel's most powerful features is its ability to handle date and time arithmetic. When you're working with date data, it's important to know how much time has elapsed between certain dates. And sometimes it's a question of actual days elapsed. Sometimes it's a question of hours, minutes, and seconds. Excel can handle nearly all of those situations beautifully. Behind the scenes, and something you should know just a little bit about, is the fact that every date from 1900 onward until the year 10,000 has a value associated with it. Here's a date here in cell D1. Do we really care what the date value behind the scenes is? Probably not most of the time. If you do click the comma button on the Home tab, you can see what that date number is, but that's not really something we need to do very often. But it does set the stage for understanding what's happening here when we're working with date and time math. And so if we're tracking, for example, the starting date and the ending date of a piece of equipment that's been around for a while, we want to know how many days it was in operation. So we'll subtract the two dates. Now, we don't really care what the values are in the background. We care that they are there, but that allows this math to work properly. Equal this cell, which has some value like 39,000, 40,000, something like that, we don't know, minus the value of this cell. How many days was this piece of equipment in operation? We press enter, 2,321 days. A different kind of scenario here. We installed a piece of equipment on May 15th, 2013. It's got a lifespan of 1,500 days. When will be its last day in operation, if this is typical? Equal our starting date plus 1,500. And there's our answer, June 23rd of 2017. Here's another date here. We simply want to know the dates 90 days before, 90 days after. Simple subtraction in the first case, equal the date in question minus 90. And so that was February 12th of 2013. 90 days later than our date, equal that date plus 90. Something else you need to know about dates is that there's an arbitrary split, and you wouldn't necessarily encounter this unless you happen to be using dates in the 20s and 30s. Let's give an example here. Maybe you're dealing with the age of retirees or Social Security recipients, something like that. Maybe it's the age of a building. So I'm going to type in an entry here of December 13th, 1930. I'm typing a 30. And that's the way it gets displayed. I typed a 30. Now, how about 1 year before that? December 13th, 1929. I'd probably type it this way. But that's 2029. So what's going on here? For the last few versions of Excel, and perhaps maybe one more, the split is at 30 and 29. And that means anytime you type a two-digit year from 30 through 99, Excel automatically assumes that it's in the previous century, in the 20th century, like this number here. If you use a year from 0 through 29, Excel assumes you mean this century. Now, if you're working with any kind of data where there's this potential source of confusion, type 4-digit years, and usually that eliminates any potential problem that you might have. Either in the next version of Excel or the one after that, Microsoft is likely to move this split line to be at 39 and 40. And for the most part, it's not a big issue, but just be alert to that concept. Now, we can also work with time arithmetic. And time is about the unit 1 refers to a day, and within that we've got decimal equivalents for different hours in the day. If we were to look at this in its pure number form, it's almost 8 o'clock. That's about a third of the day if we're trying to see the number behind the scenes. And I would emphasize we almost never really need to do this, but just for the record, that's going to be about 0.31, 0.32, maybe something of that nature. I'll click the comma button up here temporarily to display it differently, and you see it that way. So that's almost a third of a day. That would be 8 a.m. to be exactly on the money there, 0.3333. Let me undo that and emphasize the idea here that we want to track the amount of time elapsed between someone who checked in at 7:53 a.m. and checked out at 4:47 p.m. In both of these cases, we could have put in the time differently, simply by typing just the pure numbers in the so-called 24-hour style. And so for the AM entry, nothing unusual, 7:53. For the PM entry, we'll use 16:47. Now, all these entries are equally acceptable. But the key idea now is to track the time elapsed. Equal the later time minus the earlier time. And we get an answer like this. Now, there will be times when you subtract the two where you actually do see an AM or a PM in there, and you want to change the format. Are we going to get the same kind of thing over here? Probably the same. If you do see an AM or a PM, and you wouldn't want that in this case, a simple right-click, go to Format Cells. You can also get here by way of Control-1. Sometimes you'll make the change to be 13:30. If it is displaying AM, PM, and it's inappropriate, you'll make that second choice. And sometimes that pops up a little bit unexpectedly. So we see how much time has elapsed here. Now, what if you say, well, this person took 45 minutes for lunch. We want to track the actual working time. How would we make a change here? I think a lot of you would find this surprising. To subtract 45 minutes, we put in minus, and then in double quotes, 0:45, double quote. So now we're likely to see 8 hours and 9 minutes. That's exactly what we get here. Once again, here's what the formula looks like. So we can work with dates and times in a variety of different ways. And look at the entry below this. We've got a piece of computer or control equipment. It went down at 6 p.m. on November 17th. It went back up in operation again at 3:40 p.m. a few days later. How much time has elapsed? Well, these are not in date-time formats, so let's make the entry here. And we can make these together. In other words, we can put in date and time together. So in cell G5 here, I'm typing 11/17/13, that's the date, then a space. And I would either type now 18:00, 6:00 space PM, or to make it even faster, how about 6 space P? That does work. And for this entry here, we put in the date first, just like we did previously, 11/20/13, space. We can either type 3:40 space P, or possibly 15:40. Either way. Now we have two times here that we can subtract. All right, they do cross multiple days, and without knowing exactly what the answer is, it looks like it's almost 3 days, so we're expecting to see a number perhaps near 72, something like that. Equal the later time minus the earlier time. And unfortunately, we get an answer like this. Now, even if we saw a time, it might be an issue. Is that an acceptable answer? It actually is okay. In one sense, it's 2.9 days, but we probably would want to display this as a time. How many hours is that? About 70 hours or so, something like that. Pressing Control-1 or doing a right-click Format Cells, we'll go to the time category on the number tab and choose 13:30. And when we do this, we're likely to be disappointed. That is not the correct answer. When you are dealing with times that extend over a 24-hour period, you have to make a formatting adjustment here. This isn't one of Excel's finer moments, although it is easy to correct. This time we'll do a right-click, go right into Format Cells, and on the number tab here, we choose time. But who would ever guess that we choose the option here that has the 37 in it? Now, when you do click that and you've got the appropriate cell highlighted, there's the preview up above that shows the answer that we're about to see. 69 hours and 40 minutes. Now, in this display also, it might have seconds in there that we don't really need. So if you don't want that, jump over to Custom, take out the seconds and all the remaining character out there. So this is a bit of a runaround to get here, but at least we have this capability. And when you see the H within brackets, that means that it can handle hours over 24. Every time I see this, I think there should be a better way to do this. But nevertheless, it does work, and that's the answer that we would want. The key idea, of course, is we are able to subtract times across multiple days. And you saw in these previous examples different ways to handle date and time issues in Excel.